The original ending of The Last of Us was an emotional one. I remember when that game came out, people were very divisive on whether or not we needed a sequel. On one hand, the ending can be left up into interpretation. Did Ellie truly believe Joel's lie or not? What does this mean for their future? On the other hand, you can imagine it's kind of inevitable she'd find out the truth whether she believed him or not. There was a tough debate surrounding the announcement of Part 2 because some people thought their story didn't need to continue past that. But Neil Druckmann assured us, after spending years on different ideas and almost giving up, we finally uncovered a story that felt special, a story that evolved into an epic journey. "30 hours later, I'm at the ending of this game, and I'm not feeling the same as I did after the first. When Part 1 cut to credits, I was like, oh man, oh what an ending, ooh, ooh. And when Part 2 ended, I was like, but what about where's she going? Where did they go? What is happening here? And something started to click. Even though this game was twice as long as the original, I somehow felt more empty after beating it, like I needed more. I'm not saying the ending was particularly bad or anything, or that they didn't intend for this to be the finale, but what I am saying is it doesn't feel like it should be. And then it hit me. Everything about this game is a prequel to the end kind of story, a middle of a trilogy, a, ironically, Part 1 of 2 situation. Just think about it, the good guys lose. And by good guys, I really just mean Ellie, because just about every single person she's ever loved or even just liked is dead or out of her life. She's completely alone. And I know this story plays a lot with who's truly good or bad and the moral quandaries and all that stuff, but this is Ellie's story. Sure, we focus on Joel's story in Part 1, and even Abby's story is kind of most of Part 2, but the whole package is the story of Ellie. And this doesn't feel like the end. Think of the structure of every big movie franchise. The one before the end is always the darkest, the saddest, the most divisive, and very often ends with the protagonist wondering, what the hell are we supposed to do now? Most of these franchises are trilogies and are part of one bigger story, and more often than not, each of these movies themselves serves as acts in a 3-act structure. Yeah, that's right, I'm breaking out the chart. Act 1 is the setup. Joel brings Ellie to the hospital only to slaughter everyone in there and take her away so she could live. We're focusing on Act 2, confrontation. A mysterious woman tracks Joel down, tortures and kills him. Ellie pursues her for revenge. We hit the midpoint, not just of this game, but the whole trilogy. The midpoint presents a big twist. Turns out Abby was the daughter of the doctor whom Joel killed in cold blood, and she was just trying to get a little revenge of her own. The action continues to ascend as these characters meet up. Most of their friends die because of it. They fight. Abby wins, but spares Ellie. And then we hit disaster. Abby and Lev are captured and enslaved for months, while Ellie suffers from constant PTSD mental breakdowns. Crisis. No matter what she's told or how much she's been through, she's completely consumed by hatred and goes after Abby again. Climax of Act 2, the final confrontation. She finds Abby barely strong enough to stand, and they have a sad, pathetic fight. They're like the two Pikachus at the end of the Pokemon movie. It's like they don't even know why they're doing this anymore. Abby bites Ellie's fingers clean off, and she gets pinned down in the water. Just when she's about to drown, Ellie pulls off and lets her go. She realizes how far she's gone, and how much worse everything is because of it. She returns home. Her house is now empty. Her family has left. Tommy hates her. Everyone else she's come to know is dead. She picks up the guitar. Can't play it. Not without those fingers. We've lost everything. The end. Of Act 2. Now, I'm not saying I need a happy ending, nor do I think a sequel to this game would take away from this ending. It's not like this game took away from the gut puncher of the first one. I mean, really. Think of something like Avengers Infinity War. We all knew Endgame was coming. We knew it would correct these deaths. We knew all these characters weren't really going to be dead, but the ending is still iconic and will be remembered for years to come. The fact is, there's a lot more on the table for a sequel to this game, much more than there was last time. What's next for Ellie? Where is she going? Is she starting completely new? Everyone important to her is now dead except Dina and Tommy. Dina completely abandoned her at her worst moment. Where did she go? Back to Jackson? That's the only logical conclusion. She's got a baby. What, is she gonna venture off into the great unknown? No. Tommy can barely stand on his own. He's grown bitter, angry, and that's kind of the last we see of him. I guess Tommy represents truly being completely consumed by hatred. A path that Ellie doesn't ultimately take, but she may as well have. From a plot perspective, nothing would have changed for her except for one potential massive thing. Abby makes it to the Fireflies. The organization we thought was pretty much over turns out not only are they alive, but kind of thriving. Imagine this, Abby finally makes it. She's been through hell and back, and she's like, yeah, I'm the daughter of the doctor. The doctor. And that guy who killed all your people? Don't gotta worry about him. Oh, well, did you find Ellie? I've run into her a few times. I mean, does Abby even know that Ellie's immune? Isn't that kind of a big deal? It comes out like twice in the story when her mask breaks with Dina and she's all like, oh, no, I'm immune. It's no big deal. Okay, now let's run. And then when the Rattlers force her to get bitten, then she just kills him because it doesn't matter. Like, we're really not going any deeper than that? There's not a single other immune person that we know of? What makes her immune? And maybe that's specifically something they never want to explain for thematic reasons, and that's fine. But the fact that the Fireflies still exist and they know for sure that a cure can be made as long as Ellie's around. Like, why are you establishing this all at the very end of this game? If it's truly the very end of the story. Ellie really has nothing against the Fireflies. She resents Joel for making this decision for her, and she would have let herself die to make a cure. This is the perfect setup to bring things back around to a perfect ending. Ellie taking fate into her own hands, making the ultimate sacrifice for the cure. Everything mattered in the end. But there's the problem. Naughty Dog isn't interested in the perfect ending. They want to do something subversive and a little more profound. But the fact that this is set up perfectly gives you all the room in the world to mess with it. They care a bit less about the lore and the nature of the apocalypse and why Ellie's immune and how a vaccine would even work if it gets made. It's more about those emotional highs. That's what they're seeking. That's what they said they had to figure out before even making a sequel, and they're repeating themselves when asked about part 3. I personally think it's just a matter of time. I'm not here to give out the answers as to what the third story is gonna be. It took them like 2 years to come up with an idea that was even maybe worth pursuing for part 2, and then 5 more to fully realize it. My point is that I just can't stop thinking about how good a part 2 out of 3 this game was. And I'll be kind of sad if it never goes any farther than that. See, they can take any risk they want. The game's still gonna sell. The only problem is, if they make the story a little too risky, gets leaked early, and then people start canceling their pre-orders. Oops! I think Naughty Dog's next game is a new IP. It just feels right. Feels like it's time for a fresh new thing. Maybe at the end of the PS5's life, we'll be seeing The Last of Us Part 3. Maybe the PS6. See you in 10 years!
Talking away. I don't know what to say, I'll say it anyway. Today's another day to find you shying away.